Except now, with these midterm elections and the emergence of the Tea Party, what you're seeing are these fractures occur in the Republican Party. For example, on this budget, you know, the Republicans always counter the budget with their own. And they had some dissenters among the ranks. In fact, the new Speaker of the House, John Boehner, had to contend with that faction of Tea Party movement folks within his own party. They couldn't agree on one number to contest President Obama's budget with. They had to go back to the drawing board. So I think in a way this is an interesting evolution of what's happening in our election cycle come next year. The Republicans are clearly not as united as they once were, maybe 6 months ago.
Folks, the critics are blasting Obama because they believe that he ignored the Deficit Commission's report. You remember he appointed a panel of Republicans and Democrats. They came up with how we should reduce the deficit, the entitlements per se. He had an opportunity to put that one in because you remember majority did write and accept that report. It's just not the supermajority, but he could have sneaked that in. Now I am willing to predict that thing is going to get passed. It's just that President Obama didn't want to be the first one. He wants Republicans to propose it, and then they will agree to it. It's really...
Do you think it's a political tennis match that has to happen back and forth before we agree on what the final budget is?
That's
and,
right.
know, it's already February, you know, so you think by the time you pass this budget and you have, what, 9 months of the year left to do what you got to do?
Yeah, October 1, so new budget starts, so they got to make those decisions.
All this
that
fuss
time.
for about, what, 6-7 months of runway to actually do something with it.
But that's what they do. They play that tennis, you know, with each other, and hopefully a solution will be found. This is not acceptable. 65% of the budget today is entitlements, you know.
I don't think most Americans know. I certainly don't fully understand what entitlements are. I mean, we hear these broad terms.
Social Security, Medicare.
Well, those are the two we never touch.
Well, that's the third leg of the politics, what they call, but you need to touch it. For instance, used to be that you could retire at 65. Today, it's 66. Supposed to go to 67. Remember, all they're asking, this commission is asking that it be taken to 69 by 2045. Did you see that Time article in which they said 2045 will be immortal? We will have medicine that will make sure you don't die.
Well, talking about large numbers, you know, most of us, I certainly can't process $3.6 trillion, what that really means. But in the world of computing, big numbers are just the everyday norm. You know, most of us know what the megabyte is. In fact, most of us with devices and pictures and videos know what the gigabyte is because we're buying...
I know what a terabyte is.
You know what a terabyte is? Well, folks, the next one is called the exabyte, which is precisely 1 billion gigabytes. You know, it's after a while you just tack on zeros and they become meaningless. You can't really process them. But the exabyte is here. And the reason for it is because of basically all the different kinds of computing that we do and the digital media that we process back and forth. Your storage and your capacity is just needs to be bigger. And you're processing millions and millions of transactions a second, a millisecond, as a matter of fact, which causes all of these large numbers to present itself. But just to put it in layman's terms, how big is an exabyte? Well, if you used a CD as your basic unit, and if you were to just stack CDs one on top of the other, you would actually have to stack your CDs off of your desk 50,000 miles beyond the moon to reach exabyte. I mean, can you imagine? This is just an amazing, amazing amount of computing and of storage that we have evolved to. And the reality is, it's shrinking. So you know that, you know, pretty soon, instead of buying your hard drives in gigabytes or terabytes, you're going to be buying them in this exabyte.
One of them will be sufficient.
Well, we don't
my
know.
Life, we know, right?
Maybe in 10 years we'll be beyond that even. But, you know, this interesting report out of Washington Post said something else, too, in that distribution of these exabytes is not fairly done around the world. You know, in the U.S., we have broadband networks, and we use a lot of broadband devices. Therefore, we have the need for such things. But if you go to a lot of second or third world countries or even overseas, a lot of times their networks just simply don't support these kinds of numbers. So what we're used to here in dealing with in large numbers, you're not going to find across the world. And certainly it makes a big difference depending on which economic strata you're in. Here we live a pretty good life, and therefore our numbers can be so large. Elsewhere in the world, terabyte might be enough.
I don't know if you've been reading about this university in California. It's called Tri-Valley University, a plight of maybe over 1,500 students. This university has 1,555 students. 95% of them are Indian. And of course, this university makes sure you get the visa to come here. And they charge big money for this. And they don't really teach you anything. They allow you to work 20 hours by law. So the immigration authorities caught them. And they want all of them gone from here. And Indian embassy and the Indian government and everybody's up in the arms because immigration authorities have put that anklet, where they can monitor wherever they are going.
Kind of like you do for prisoners.
Prisoners, that's right. And it's kind of sad to see that happen because some of them, they probably did not know. They paid the money, they didn't know one university from the other. It's kind of a sad story about those students, but at the same time, I see such an active embassy. I see such an active home ministry. But where are they when it comes to NRI and their visas? They're nowhere.
This is kind
it's like we need to get one of our own politicians here.
I agree with you. I think what we're seeing over time is that the NRI community, and okay, fine, NRI applies to Indians, but really this applies to any ethnic segment. You have the Chinese, the Filipinos, all of them probably have similar problems with their home countries to some degree, as in who represents the population that's living here? How do they get their concerns fed back to the home country so that policies can change? Because we